in service. Well, I really can't pass this aircraft without relating a story that happened many years ago. This is the English Electric Lightning, Great Britain's first supersonic interceptor fighter, a product of the Cold War. When the Russian spy planes were sent over the North Sea approaching our territory, these aircraft would be scrambled, and in about 3 minutes they would be alongside at 50,000 feet monitoring the situation. And the reason they could do this is that they had not one but two powerful engines, one mounted above the other. A very powerful, short-range, difficult-to-fly aircraft. Filled and loaded, this would weigh about 20 tons. And the other thing to observe is the size of the wing area, a very small wing area. These aircraft need to be flown fast, otherwise they would simply fall out of the sky. Now back in 1966, this aircraft was based at RAF Lyneham in Wiltshire. And the regular pilot had reported that just prior to liftoff, a red warning light had appeared on the control panel. So they had the aircraft in the repair workshops, found the fault and carried out the rectification. And the man in charge of the servicing, the crew chief, was at the time that was Wing Commander Taffy Holden, who I'm pleased to present to you today. This is Wing Commander Taffy Holden, and I didn't know he was coming today. And I hope I tell the story correctly. So Taffy Holden decided to carry out the ground running test, and he was perfectly entitled to do this. So he took the aircraft to the end of the runway, set the brakes, put the throttle to about halfway, ran down the runway for 500 or 600 yards. The red light didn't appear. He tried this 3 times and was quite happy that they'd cured the fault. Then he thought, well, just to be absolutely sure, I'll try it one more time. So for the 4th time he set the aircraft up at the end of the runway, ran down the runway, the red light didn't appear. Just about to close the engine out, when suddenly the afterburner, the reheat, how am I doing so fast?
Speak a bit louder.
Yeah. The afterburner, or the reheat, call it what you will, kicked in automatically. He just nudged the throttle a bit too far forward and it started the automatic engagement facility. Now let's just remind ourselves of the situation. Here is a man, and I can safely say this, who is not a qualified jet pilot. In fact, I believe Taff's only experience of flight was when he joined the Royal Air Force about 20 years before, and he served several hours of dual control in the Tiger Moth or the Chipmunk trainer. He's sitting in this powerful aircraft, canopy open, possibly no communications gear on, and of course, in no time at all, he could see the end of the runway appearing. Well, he had very little option. He pulled back on the control column, lifted the aircraft off, and wobbled round the Lyneham circuit for half a dozen times. Realised what he'd done and managed to shut the afterburner down. The emergency services on the ground had seen what had happened and were waiting for an impending disaster. He tried, I think, 3 unsuccessful approaches. On the 4th approach, I believe, he chose another runway for some reason. As I said before, to keep these aircraft in the sky, they have to fly fast. Because they fly fast, they also land fast. Now, when they land, they need the assistance of a braking parachute to slow them down. Unfortunately, on Taff's final approach at landing, he put the aircraft down at such a severe angle that the tail skid and the runway surface cut through the line of the parachute, which just tore away. However, he leant on the braking system, and with very little margin to spare, he brought the aircraft to a standstill. Ladies and gentlemen, I promise you that story is absolutely true. I hope I've told it in a somewhat authentic manner, but much to my surprise and your surprise, this is the man who was involved, Wing Commander Taffy Holden. I'm sure he'd like to perhaps add a couple of points to that.
They want you to say a few words, Taffy. Yes. They want you to say a few words.
Is there anything you'd like to add, or tell me if I've got the story slightly wrong, sir? But,
well,
please, these people would love to hear a word from you.
Well, although, as the gentleman told you, I am a qualified pilot, but I've never flown a jet before. Until I climbed up there to do this ground test. And of course, when that gets locked into reheat, you can't steer it. It goes straight like a bullet out of a gun. And I was obviously centered on the runway, the lazy runway at the time when it all happened. And of course, the first thing that happened was there was a fuel bar there with a trailer this crossing in front of me on the Perry track, I missed it by about 30 or 40 feet. And then the next thing, a Comet aircraft had just taken off in front of me from left to right. And then the third thing was Basingstoke village in front of me. If I didn't lift it off the ground then, I was going to crash into the village. So there was 3 escapes in less than sort of 30 seconds, because that was gathering speed, 180, 200 knots, you see, until I realized what had happened. And fortunately for me, the engine fitter that told me how to start the engines to do this check, he did say, you don't go past that reheat slot there, because if you go past that, it locks into reheat. He said, but you won't need that. Thankfully, he told me how to get it out of reheat, which I had to start thinking about when I found myself, you know, going off there like that. So it was a sort of learning to fly a jet in a matter of 45 seconds. So I was obviously absolutely shattered as to what was going to happen. Obviously, I thought my family was ever going to see them again. And of course, I made 2 attempts on the duty runway. But on one of those attempts, I wasn't coming down. I was down in the valley coming up to the runway like that. So I abandoned that and decided I'd go and do a full circuit and land against the sort of the direction of takeoff. But at least I was going to miss Lightning village and miss Basingstoke village, and I'd just drop into the valley if I made a mess of it, you see. So it all happened in the space of 12 minutes, Liz. And when I went up in front of the Commander-in-Chief after the incident had to be investigated, he did say, he says, he's well Holden. I've read the proceedings of this investigation, and he says, in my opinion, you should not have attempted to check. And he says, do you agree? Of course. I said, yes, sir, I do agree. I should not have attempted to do the check in the first place. He says, good. Take your hat off now and sit down, and I'll tell you some of my escapades in Mesopotamia. But it was a scary sort of 12 minutes. So I nearly lost my life 5 occasions in that 12 minutes. Mind you, I had another 2 escapes in life. One's carbon monoxide poisoned myself, turning on a lathe of my father's, and the engine was blowing gas out, and I fainted, and my dad came and took me out into fresh air, thankfully. And then another occasion, I was nearly drowned behind a fishing boat who came in, and he put his engine on to get some steerage, and of course that's when I jumped into this harbour to go swimming. There along full of seawater and seaweed and sand and shingle. So that was 7 lives I've had. I'm not trying to find out what's it like to have 9 lives like that.
But at 87 is not.
Oh no, I'm joking. Obviously, something I didn't enjoy very much. Yeah. I'm going to make a request of the museum staff here this morning. Now, could you find the ladder? So I can just look into the cockpit there. I don't want to get in the cockpit. I just want to look into that cockpit again.
I'll ask my colleague if he can use it.
No, it's not possible.
Now, of course, we perhaps didn't make it clear, but this obviously is the actual aircraft that Taff inadvertently took to flight back in 1966.
I don't know. It's amazing. It's amazing how it's packed into this hangar like this here. I'm truly amazed, yes.
I can honestly say that on my tour, this is the subject that arouses the most interest. We're getting to the end of the tour now. but when I tell people the story, they look at me amazed as though I'm having them on. But I say, are you sure this story is absolutely true? And do I tell it about right, Sam? Do I give it about in the right way? Is it about right, what I've said?
Yes. Asking whether the story's told right, the story's told correctly.
Oh yes, well the thing is, there's been a lot of the stories that have been told incorrectly about I was sitting on you know, something, but there's so many misconceptions about what was happening and how it did it. And the other thing was, I read my obituary in one of the aircraft forums some years ago, and that's why I had to sit down and write the whole story out, which you'll see published in various books and that. But it's one of those things that I'm not, you know, I'm not proud of the fact that I made a gigantic mistake in taking off like that and then damaged the tail skid, which I'm going to borrow to show the family the damage I did to the aircraft. I burnt the brakes out as well. I had 100 yards left of the runway when I stopped.
Proud of the fact you landed it again, oh?
And
said you're proud of the fact you landed it again.
I'm just glad I landed it, yes, of course I am, Keith, yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to finish the tour here because I don't think we could have anything more suitable to end this tour this morning than what we've heard by this remarkable gentleman who survived this traumatic experience in this highly powerful aircraft. So once again, really show your appreciation to Thank you for your attention. That completes the tour, and enjoy your visit to Duxford.
Thank you.